tonality, body language, those are things that I learned in policing. If you understand somebody's body language as a police officer, it's that can help you from being shot that day or getting killed. Yeah, it comes down to purpose over pleasure, right?
Right.
We always want that instant gratification. I want pleasure right now. I don't want to wait for the result. I want it now.
Of course.
It takes discipline. It comes down to the main things. It comes back to the foundation.
Like they just pause and it sort of startles them. Like, what would you do in that situation? How would you handle that situation? You're like, oh, there's 20,000. I go, 20,000?
PhoneSales.com.
The Canadian closer that is just making phone sales and hitting his six figures. He's hitting his six figures. Let's say that he's doing some numbers. He's doing some numbers. A man that brings a lot of authority to the call. You may see him smiling, but he brings a lot of authority, and he's actually he's a cold hard assassin when it comes to sales, aren't you, Julien?
You can say that. Yeah. You can say that.
He's being humble. He's being humble. The first thing that I really want to dive into, and something that I've noticed with you, is like I said, you do bring a lot of authority to a call. And like, I'm assuming you've got a lot of experience in sales. Like, how long have you been in the sales game for?
Yeah, it's a good question, Max. I've been in it since probably like 2012. Unofficial sales jobs at that time. I didn't even know that was sales at the time.
So what were you doing?
Well, if you want to circle back, I think we have to go back to like 2014.
Okay.
2014 is when, 2013 to be exact, is when I graduated from policing school.
Right.
I did police foundations in Ottawa,
Mm-hmm.
and I graduated from college. And the craziest thing is that I thought I would be a police officer right out the gate, but that's not what happened, because our teacher told us at the end of our course, she said, by the way, guys, you need, number one, they're only hiring visible minorities and women.
Wow.
So I was a white guy. I'm out the picture. They're not going to hire me.
Wow.
And number two, you need more life experience. So you need to be like at least 25, 26. That's when they're going to hire. So everybody in my class was like, wow, why didn't you guys tell us that right out the gate?
You're like, why did you make me do this?
Exactly. So we were all surprised. And basically, I had to change my plans at that point. So I needed to find so I moved back to my mom's place in Montreal just to save some money. And I decided to apply for jobs. Mm-hmm. And I was a security guard at the time for Garda. I decided to go into that field, but before I got a job at Future Shop.
Right.
So I was working at Future Shop part-time.
Right. And Future Shop is the sales place, right?
Yeah. Future Shop is where they sell electronics, appliances, stuff. And you're on a base salary plus commission. Okay. So that was my first real sales job, I would say. Okay. I was only working there Yeah, go ahead.
So that's something actually I'm curious about, because now you're in high ticket sales. Well, I'm assuming that was low ticket sales, like low ticket in retrospect, like technology, TVs, phones and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And then what was the commission structure like with that type of stuff?
It was like $15 an hour, I think, plus a certain amount of commission. So the best guys over there were making like 60 to 70,000 max.
And that's US or Canadian?
Canadian.
Okay.
But the only thing is that I only stayed there for 2 weeks because I got a job as a security guard at the Montreal airport. So I left that job. But what flipped for me was when I got into that job, we were going through our training for 4 to 6 weeks for the airport security job. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, I got my first pay because I quit Future Shop. Right. And I finally got my first pay a couple weeks later. When I looked at that pay, I was getting paid more part-time than full-time as a security guard.
No way.
So that's when I realized, like, forget this. I'm going into sales full time.
Of course.
I quit my job. The guy at Garda at the airport said, "You're making a mistake." But in my mind, I knew I wasn't making a mistake.
100%.
This was my calling.
100%. And when you say it's your calling, what do you mean that's your calling? Because like I know I consider you one of those people that's very just like direct and to the point. And yeah, like you come across as a very like humble but good salesperson to me, and I really like that, and that's why I really resonate with the way that you talk. I also feel like the way that you do things is great. Why do you feel like sales is your calling?
I maybe not at that time. It felt like something was calling me. That's what I mean by calling, because I didn't think at that time I knew that was my calling. But looking back now, I know now that it was my calling
Yeah.
today. Not at the time. At the time, I think it was something that was telling me, yeah, you should go this way. I just went with my gut, and I applied to a furniture store, which was called Boy Martineau at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the biggest furniture store in Quebec. And people there were on straight commission. And I've never worked on straight commission before.
Yeah.
Straight commission furniture store is kind of funny because it's like, you don't know
100%.
what you're going to make that day. In general, you don't know what you're going to
Mm-hmm.
make when you're on commission. So, but in the end, it worked out great for me. My first year, I finished first out of everybody in the store, and I made
Wow.
100,000 first year. My
Wow. In your
second
first year?
in my first year.
Wow.
And in my second year, I finished first in the whole company out of 400 salespeople.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think did that? And you mean your first year in sales completely, or your first year there?
First year there, and
Okay.
that was like straight commission. That was a pure sales job at that point.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the real. That's like getting into the real stuff. Like I remember I did a straight sales commission, and I remember the only reason I got paid was because the sales guys were nice enough to split the pay with me every week because I never made a sale. I sucked.
You
So
worked in a
bad.
nice place, because where I worked, it was all sharks. You're on your
Yeah.
own. They didn't even want to tell you anything. As soon as you were good, mindset, because I came in with a beginner's mindset. I left with a beginner's mindset. I still
Right.
have a beginner's mindset to this day. And I took the best out of everybody I was working with. So
Right.
this guy's good at this. Let's take that from him. This guy's good with this. Okay, let's learn. Let's take the best out of these people.
Hey, I
Listen to
like it.
because everybody had their specialty,
Of course.
and some of them were good in this aspect of the sale, but they weren't good in this aspect. Well, I
Right. That
wasn't
makes
going to
sense.
study what they're not good at. I'm going to study what they're great at. And I took the best of everybody and made it my own.
And you turned it into a
And
Julien.
and yeah, so I finished first for the next couple of years after that. It wasn't
There you
just
go.
that year.
Wow.
Consistently.
Wow.
Yeah.
I find that really fascinating, and what I really like about that is I try. That's personally something that I try to do. I like looking at what is someone good at and what can I learn from them, and what do you think were the things that you actively took that, like, let's say someone watching this, they're like, right, I want to get good at sales. I need to learn how to get good at sales. What are the key things that you believe makes a good salesman? Whether that's 3 things, 5 things, however many things. Like, what do you think are the key things that makes a good salesman?
A few things. I think we can't just say one thing, but it's a lot of small things.
Of course,
In my
of course,
opinion.
of course.
And it's like I said, have that beginner's mindset.
Beginner's mindset.
Always learn every day something new. Every
Right.
time something fucked up with a client, and a client did not buy from me, you know what I would do? I'd take my business card, flip it on the other side, and write down exactly what went wrong with this client. What could I have done differently? I had a stack of cards like this
Wow.
by the end of the first year, just learning, going through them and saying, hey, oh, that's the same mistake that happened here. So what went wrong? And I would just meditate on that.
Right.
And visualize what could have gone better instead
I
of,
like that.
and how, so those were things I was doing on my own. I didn't take much sales training, to be quite honest. I've noticed that just learning from the people around me was the most important thing. I think being
Interesting.
around great salespeople will definitely bring you to that next level.
100%.
And I think that's huge for sure.
Completely agree with you, and that's one of my favorite things about being around you guys at PhoneSales. Like I said, I've said to the other guys, I'm not a closer. I'm really helping drive this content forward, and this is my expertise. This is where I thrive. But listening to you guys, like even me and my girlfriend, we have these conversations, and she's hearing like some of the sales calls or hearing some of the podcasts, and she's like, "That's it. That's so true. That's so true." And just being in that vicinity, and whether that is literally like reading a book, watching a YouTube video, Then if you can't get around those people, like do those things first, then you start to get around these people and you just break limiting beliefs that much quicker. Because like even you just saying, well, I just took little things from each individual and it started to work for me, that makes me go, yes, that is right. It affirms it for me. And like you have these higher level conversations, in my opinion, like going from where you were in your original sales commission like job to where you are now in phone sales, like how much different actually is that for you?
Way different, way different. Just being around people at phone sales and being around high achievers, people that just want to take it to the next level, I love that.
Right.
Because where I worked, people were much older folks I used to work with, like 50s and 40s. They've been there all their lives. Like they've been there for 20 to 30 years.
Wow.
So at that point in time, these people are a little bit burnt out. I'm the one that's always trying to push myself to be the best.
Of
And the
course.
maximum I can make where I used to work was 170 to 180,000 a year.
Okay.
The average person was making about 60,000.
Wow.
So that's the maximum I can make there. But once I found high ticket sales and I found phone sales, that was my first high ticket space job, was working for phone sales at first. And the sky's the limit. When you're selling something such high ticket, you don't have to deal with bullshit, if I may say, like excuses from clients.
100%.
Like trying to buy from me, haggle for $500 where I used to work.
Of course.
Now people are not even haggling because they see the value in what I'm selling here.
100%.
Much higher ticket, right?
Okay, so you started as a closer with phone sales.
Correct.
And then you became a partner within how much time?
About 6 months.
Oh, wow. Okay, so quite a short period of time. What was it that made you go from closer to partner, like in your mind? Because obviously you took that leap of faith and just went, like, I'm ready to take on my own sort of agency. Like, what was it that made you take that leap of faith?
I mean, I always wanted to do something a little bit more than just closing. I've been closing for such a long period of time, in my opinion. Right. Like I've been in sales for 8 years, and I wanted just a new challenge. And I saw the upside, saw the system that phone sales had in place that could help me definitely get to that level and get there much faster than doing it on my own or just staying as a closer. Of course. So that's definitely what I saw was a lot of value.
Right, sure. Right. And what has your experience been working with phone sales, would you say?
Oh, it's been great. It's been great. With Sasha, Jovan, they're great. All the other partners are amazing too. It's just been a great learning experience, but also like no limit to where you can actually take this.
Oh, I like that answer. There's no limit, like, because that's the thing. Like, go ahead.
There's no limit. Like the only limits you'll have are the ones that you impose on yourself.
100%.
If you don't have any limits, then there's no roof.
Exactly.
And that's what I like. Being under a roof for 8 years in the past, I'm done being under a roof. I want to be around people that don't want to have a roof, that want to go to the.
That's being clipped. That's being clipped.
Yeah.
Let's go. I love that. Because it literally is like you like the goal is to outgrow your environment. Like start off as effectively, like without trying to say like be dumb, but like start off as the dumbest person in the room and grow to the point where you're outgrowing the room and like you just can't fit in that room anymore, so you have to get to a bigger room. Like it's too uncomfortable to stay there. And okay, what do you think was it within you? Because you're a very level-headed person in the sense that I think you're very logical. You're like, well, if I get around these people, I'm going to learn something new. If I learn something new, I'm going to get better. If I get better, I'm going to grow. Like what is it that you think makes you have something like that in your mind? Because that makes total sense to me. And people listening may not have that. Like maybe they want that. Maybe they want to build that. Like how do you get there?
Yeah. I think you just have to have the vision of where you want to go. The vision is huge. Like you have to know where you're going. You have to understand that you have to have certain skills in place too. Like I know I can do this, and it's a lot of hard work too. I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot of hard work,
of course,
but the payoff is worth it.
Of course.
And I think you got it comes back to that beginner's mindset. Like start where you are, and see what your vision is, and calculate each step that takes you there. Because every step counts.
That makes sense. So it's like effectively know your outcome, gain the skills, and just walk. Get up and walk. Like do what you got to
Yeah.
do. Because
It's like I started losing weight again this year. Like I've been off my bodybuilding path because of my previous job, and being in high ticket sales gave me the time back in my life
right,
to eat better, to sleep better, to work out consistently again, and not be burnt out like having that sales job in the past. So
right.
now I'm going back to losing weight, and it comes down to one day at a time. Like today, I had salad. Like I had 2 salads today with tuna. I'm having salmon tonight with some vegetables, and this morning I
Nice.
just had egg whites with some Greek yogurt. But
There you go.
I know I'm not there yet physically, but I'm going to get there in 2 to 3 months.
Exactly. Wait, did you say completely off topic? But did you say Greek yogurt and egg whites?
Yeah, not in the same, not in the same, not on the same plate.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
okay. Yeah, no,
this,
that
this,
I was like, whoa. You just walked over something very weird.
no. They're separate. They're on separate plates. No,
Oh,
I'm not
okay,
eating it.
okay, that makes
Oh,
sense. I was gonna say like,
yeah,
what is the breakfast of a high ticket close? A Greek yogurt and egg whites? Okay, I guess.
that's a secret. I didn't want to say it, but that's a secret.
You're like, clip that out, cut that bit out. No, that's cool, man. That's cool. But it's like you said. Like I feel like a great analogy for anything, specifically business, is like weight loss or muscle gaining of some sort, because it's like you have to show up every day and you have to hit your reps. Like ever since personally I've been moving around a bit, and I've moved house and I haven't really had a base yet, and really not sure what we're doing, like been here and there, been working a lot, like I've been thrown off my gym game. Like I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. Oh, I'm sad about no, but the reality is you've got to get yourself back on the horse. Do you know what I mean? And that doesn't mean like go super hard, and that doesn't mean like work 20-hour days just trying to close deal after deal and burning yourself out. Like how do you balance, because you said you've got more time now, how do you balance gym, because I know you work out quite a lot, with like studying like the growth mind aspect, like meditation, and running a sales agency and like in the high ticket sales space?
Yeah, it's a great question, Max. I would say it's discipline. Number
Mm-hmm.
one, waking up early. Like I wake up early, I go to bed earlier now,
Right.
and I've been trying to wake up at honestly 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m. Trying to hit
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm almost there,
Right.
but that consistently and just like putting in the reps, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
super important. But I have my time back as well because when we work virtually, we don't have to drive to our work,
Of
right?
course.
So I'm saving like a half hour in the morning, a half hour in the evening. That's
Mm.
huge.
Mm-hmm.
And just the commute is huge, but because that takes energy.
Of
It
course.
takes energy to prepare your lunch box for the next day
Of
for work.
course.
It
Of
takes
course.
energy to do all these things. But now, since you're at home and you're able to do all that from home, it
Mm.
gives you an advantage. If you discipline yourself with your time, you have an advantage. But you
Right.
have to make sure you're utilizing that time in the best way possible. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So that's huge for
Right.
sure.
Okay. So then, but when you say the word discipline, like, how would you elaborate on that? Like, obviously, a lot of people may hear the word discipline and they think, "Oh, I was disciplined as a kid for doing something bad." Like, how would you explain the word discipline to someone who needs to get their act together?
I mean, it's keeping the promises towards yourself.
Mm,
Promising, like you said to yourself, like tomorrow you're going to wake up at 6 a.m., let's say.
mm,
You wake up at 6 a.m. Or did you hit the snooze button?
mm-hmm.
Did you keep that promise? That
Interesting.
that that's what discipline is to me, is keeping
Interesting.
promises that you've set for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like I meditate every night. I meditate every morning. Huge. That's super important to meditate, to be as present as you can be. Because
Mm-hmm.
with all the distractions we have in life today, it's super easy to get off track and be undisciplined.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Okay, that's really interesting, because I have had those times where I've been like super, super, super disciplined, where it's like it was that up at 5 a.m., like meditate for an hour, like cold shower, like go out for a run or go to the gym and stuff like that. Um, and I'd say recently I've actually like the way you explain it, I'm like, oh, actually, I think I've slipped off my discipline quite a bit, because there have been times where I've said I'm going to do something and I haven't followed through with it. So again, these high level conversations help me go, there you go.
Yeah.
Like to stay on your discipline, you just need to do what you're going to say you're going to do. And that doesn't necessarily mean like and maybe that even means just start with easier expectations. Like, don't say, I'm going to hit the gym every day for the next 50 days in a row. Go, no, I'm just going to turn up to the gym just 3 times this week, 4 times this week, 5 times this week, 7 times this week. Like, go to your realistic standard. And if that means you're building up to it, it's going to take some time, but you're going to get there. How, like, what would you do? Let's say you said you were going to do something and you don't do it. People might beat themselves up about that. What would you personally do? Like, if for whatever reason that did happen?
Yeah, I wouldn't beat myself too much about it. I just say tomorrow's a new day. Let's do it tomorrow.
Right.
Let's, like, for example, because the more that you keep those promises towards yourself of being disciplined, for example, accomplishing what you set forth that you wanted to do, that will help your sales game tremendously. Because if you're a guy that's selling somebody and keeping promises towards himself, the person buying from you is going to trust you because you trust you.
True.
Because if you don't trust you and you don't have the confidence in yourself to do the things that you said you would do, how would somebody trust you into buying something if you don't even keep the promises towards yourself? It increases your self-confidence tremendously by keeping the promises towards you. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't beat myself too much about it. I just say to myself, tomorrow, I'm going to start again and start there, because it's every day counts. It's one day at a time, day in and day out.
100%. So how do you like keep up with that? Like, how do you keep yourself accountable? Let's say, oh, tomorrow is a new day, but you don't beat yourself up, but you don't like give yourself too much leeway where you go, yeah, tomorrow's a new day, but then you miss it the next day. Like, what would you do in that situation? Like, how do you hold yourself accountable without beating yourself up?
You got to be tough on yourself too. There a certain point, like if it's been a week that you've been eating like shit, like you got to be like, hey, of course, wake up. Let's hit it. Let's stay consistent. Because for me, persistence is everything. If you're persistent, you will get there as long as you stay on the right lane that you're supposed to drive on. And I would just, like, if you have a routine in place and you have your environment set up in a way that is set up for success, like I've been doing, there's no reason as to why you wouldn't hit your goal. Of course. The way I do my routine, everything is set up. All the foods that I've been eating every day that are healthy are set up in a way that I can only do that. There's only one way. One way is up, because I've set up to be successful.
I like that. Okay, so you said that about your environment, and you said how important it is about your routine specifically. And I know you're a guy, like, you hit the gym, you look after yourself, you eat clean, like you meditate, you I'm assuming you read or you listen to audiobooks, you consume knowledge.
I've been doing self-development, like reading books. Like I have a whole library. Wow. That's the one thing I started. I think related to the sales game, when I first started, maybe I didn't take any sales courses or anything, but I've read a ton of books. I was reading a book a month minimum, so 12 books a year.
Wow, that's super cool. So, like, how do you set your environment up for success? Like, let's say someone's going, well, I can't get around these people. Like, you can go and read books. You can get the information. The information's out there. That's a given. Okay, but now it's about routine and environment. Like, what is your environment like for success? Like Julian's environment for success. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Well, basically, number one, I took out all the junk food out of my place in the last couple months. So, like, I'm not there yet physically to where I want to be, but I'm on my journey to hitting that goal.
Of course.
But I've changed my environment where if I open my cupboard, I have no sweets, I have no protein bars, I have none of that. All I have is fruits, vegetables, and my protein, or whatever I need.
I love that.
So that's setting up and that's huge, because if you eat well, you're going to feel better, you're going to perform better. That's number one. And it's just keeping on track with small things. So if you can't meditate every day because it's not in your routine, start by doing a 5-minute or even a 2-minute meditation.
100%.
In the
100%.
2 minutes.
100%.
There's apps for that. I use the meditation app Calm. I think it's called Calm.
Yeah.
I use that. And there's meditations there for beginners for 2 minutes.
Perfect.
So everybody has 2 minutes. So do that. Start today, do 2 minutes, and increase it little by little to maybe 10 minutes.
Of course.
And that's how you set up your environment for success, is having everything in place that is there to make sure
it's reachable. It's reachable. You're
It's
not like,
reachable,
yeah.
right? Like I have a home gym at my house
Oh wow,
since the COVID times, but I have it there. If I can't go to the gym that day, if I'm so busy and I can't go,
there's
I have
something to
no
do.
excuse.
Yeah.
It's here. I got it
Ah,
here.
I like what you just said. There's no excuse. I feel like if you make it like, because what I've noticed being back in the UK, like I'm back in my family house. Do you know what I mean? So like
Yeah,
when me and my girlfriend live, we don't tend to drink much like soda or like eat much. Like we don't get me wrong, we eat chocolate, we eat candy, and like I love my protein waffles. I love them. But we tend not to have loads of junk food in the house. Whereas here is like
yeah,
my family, they and I'm very blessed to have had people constantly like making sure that I'm fed through my life. And like my mum's always done that. She's always made sure there's food in the cupboards. There's always a warm dinner at night, like that type of stuff. But I have noticed that I've definitely got into a few bad habits here. That me and my girl, when we were in Mexico, we've got fruit and vegetables in our fridge. We've got a massive watermelon in our fridge. We've got like it's actually more difficult to have the sugary things. Like we just got water in the house
yeah,
versus like any like fizzy drinks or sodas or anything like that. And I've definitely noticed that the environment is a huge thing when it comes to that for sure.
yeah. And you can learn this in Atomic Habits. If I could recommend a book to anybody to read, would be Atomic Habits. I
Yes,
forgot who the
I love that
author
book.
is, but he tells
James
this.
Clear, I think it is. James
Yeah,
Clear.
I think that's it. James something. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
great
no, that's
book.
awesome. That's awesome. So I'm going to completely switch the topics here and just go like straight into a really cool question that I'm sure a lot of people want to hear. Like, what was your biggest month? I know we've spoken about this, but what was your biggest month with phone sales to date?
My biggest month as a closer or as a partner?
Let's go with a closer and then as a partner, actually, because I'd like to see the perspective.
Yeah, my biggest month as a closer was around almost 53,000 in
Wow,
28. Yeah, that
wow,
was in the month of February of this year.
that's take home profit.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
as a closer.
As a closer, yeah, I was hovering around 45,000, 50,000
Wow,
typically.
that's
So
amazing.
53,000. Yeah.
That's insane. And like, what do you think separates you someone who's making 53,000 or let's say 50k as an average, let's say someone who's making 50k versus someone who's making a couple of $1,000s as a closer each month, what do you think really separates that?
I think it's the level of control you have over your emotions.
Interesting.
Because the more in control you are about how you feel inside, the
Mm-hmm.
more you can control what's going on the outside, and the more you can control
Mm-hmm.
the outcome of the sale.
Got
And I
you.
feel like so many people, they don't notice these little details. Like, are you fidgety? What are your hands doing?
Mm.
Are you shaking? Are you sweating a little bit? Do you like all these physical
Right.
cues? If you can't control your physical cues, how are you supposed to help somebody buy this product if
Of
you're
course.
having all the stressors come out physically? But it
Cool.
comes down to controlling your emotions to control the outcome of the sale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because so many people are trying to fake it till you make it type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work.
100%.
I can hear it in your voice. I can hear it
Yeah.
in your tonality. Are
100%.
you? Do you believe in what you're selling or no?
Mm.
Do you have a level of conviction that's super high or low? All these things are super, super important, but it's all in the details.
Right. Okay, so in the details, what do you mean specifically by details?
Tonality, body
Mhm.
language, those are things that I learned in policing.
Yes.
Policing was actually something that definitely helped me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Are the courses I took on body language. We had maybe a whole semester on body language, which
Wow.
was huge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you understand somebody's body language as a police officer, it's that can help you from being shot that day or getting
Hundred
killed.
percent, 100%. It's like,
So you
have they got the twitch? Are they going to draw for a gun? Like, you got to be aware
yeah.
of that.
And today I'm super happy I didn't have to go down that route to be like in a life or death situation. But
Of course.
that's the way I look at it when I'm on a sales call.
Mm,
It's a life or death situation. Am I going to close him or not?
right.
Based on my body language.
Yeah. There's
The
no
outcome
like.
is has to work. There's no other
Yes.
way.
Of course. Of
It
course.
needs to work. So you need to have that level of conviction
Hmm.
and understanding these body language cues are huge
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. So there's some cool things that I want to pick up on there. The first one is about like the body language stuff, which I find very interesting because my background in hypnosis, being a hypnotherapist, like understanding, like you I can tell when someone is feeling an emotion just down to looking at them. Like you said, it really is like, let's dive into that for a second, because this is going to be an interesting conversation for me as well. I love this stuff. So
Yeah.
how do you, and how were you taught in policing school how to really pick up on body language in regards to, first of all, does this person trust you? Like, how, like, can you even like pick up on those type of things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think trust is built through listening.
Okay.
Because if somebody feels heard and listened to, it means that you understand them. If it shows a level of understanding. So many people today don't listen.
Mm-hmm,
Number
mm-hmm.
one, like the conversation should be you doing 80% of listening and them doing all the talking.
Of
Like
course.
20% of it should be you talking and explaining your product,
Of
but
course. Of
most of it
course.
should be listening. So I think understanding the physical, we could have a lot of examples. If you had examples of people like, how is this guy feeling in this part of the sales call? Like if
Right.
we had those broken down right now, I could break it down for you, no problem.
Right.
Because that's what my expertise is. My expertise is in body language, tonality, and those are huge. That's
Mm,
like 80% of sales, and listening. Listening is huge as
exactly.
well.
Exactly.
But
Okay.
I
So,
mean,
to ask that as a question for someone who like wants to really understand that, what
mhm.
can you see in someone's, let's start with tonality. What is someone's tonality when they don't, when they don't fully trust you, or they're really just not sold on what you're selling? Like, how can you decipher that, let's say?
Yeah, so they're looking away. They're not
Right.
looking at you as much. They're looking away. They have a level of complacency. Maybe they're just like this, listening
Right.
to you. Like they
Right.
don't trust you. They don't believe you. They might be like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean?"
So it's like you
Like
can see
they
in the eyebrows.
that skepticism in their eyes,
Hmm,
right?
hmm.
Yeah, they're exactly. Um, those are like, and also the fact that they're just like asking the questions to you.
Hmm.
Like, if they're always questioning you, that's could be a good thing because they're asking you about your product and
Of
stuff.
course.
But it also means that maybe they don't trust you at that point in time in the conversation,
Hmm.
right? And
Interesting.
are they when you're showing them something about whatever you're selling,
Hmm.
and they're not saying anything, and you just said something that's fantastic and what they're looking for, and they're not saying anything. If they're saying, "Oh, that sounds amazing, I like this," well, good. Well, if they're saying nothing, sometimes some people have a different personality type. It depends on the person, right? Some
Of
people are
course.
not very
Of course.
emotional. Some people are.
Hmm.
So you have to understand how they are. But if they are an emotional person showing their emotions most of the time, and they're
Mm.
not reacting to what you're saying, then at that point in time, that's a that. And also the tonality. If we can go back on that,
Of
if
course.
somebody is like when you're talking, if you have like like if you're anxious and it's a very low level of anxiety that you might not even notice,
Mm.
but the client notices it because it's at the very like these are subtle cues that I help
Of
my team
course.
with,
Of course.
but that's what makes all the difference.
Yeah. It really
Is
is those little
I can
things.
100%. Yeah.
100%. So, what would you say in your experience has been like a difficult thing that you've learned? So let's say in like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be about like subconscious cues, but something that you've learned that has like just really shifted the way that you've been able to sell. Like, was that studying someone? Was that, I know you were saying about the 80-20 principle, but is there anything that you really feel like significantly increased your ability to sell as high ticket salesman?
I would say it's following a script for sure,
Right.
because following a specific script when you're selling something that's so high ticket is very important as well.
Okay.
But also being able to pivot. So many people just follow the script, don't know how to, pivot if something happens. If there's a question being
Right.
asked, when they get
Right.
off script, they don't know. They freeze up. They're like, "What am I supposed to do now?" And then they're looking at their wall, and you can tell they're reading off the script. Like, dude,
Yeah.
get rid of the script.
Yes.
Start being yourself and
Hmm.
handle the thing right then and there. Like
Yes.
people don't know how to think on their feet anymore. That's the
Right.
biggest thing. Need to know how to learn and be able to react in real
Yes.
time because
Yes.
everything is being controlled online. You can control this, control that, dude.
Of
You
course.
need to know how to have a conversation with someone.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so many people nowadays are just following a freaking script and not even asking the question: Is this helping me or is this hindering my performance?
Right.
Ask the question.
Yeah.
So they're always getting the same results.
Yeah. It's like someone, so like they're trying to, you're trying to sell something, and then someone just goes, they just ask a question about later on. And what I've noticed with very good sales, high ticket closers, yourself, Jack, like all the other closers, Steven, like all the partners specifically as well. And I've watched a lot of your guys' calls. It's like they start asking a question. It's no, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Just come back here. Like it's like whoa. And like that's like taking frame on the call, isn't it? It's like wait, like no, you're gonna have that question completely answered, but it won't make sense if I don't answer this first. And then it's like just bringing them back to the script. But then sometimes, so when you say like being able to be adaptable and like being able to like pivot, what do you actually mean by that? Like pivoting off script, like to answer this and then come back to the script, or like do you change your internal script effectively? Like how do you like explain that?
So if they're asking you a question and you are going through your script at that point, and for example, a typical salesperson be like, "Oh, I'll answer that later." They're not handling the objection right then and there.
Okay,
so that creates more of a problem down the road.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Okay. So what would you do if someone, so how would you like react to that situation? Someone does ask like, okay, like, well, what's the financial investment going to be? Like super early on in the call, before you've even explained it, before you've even like handled any of like where they're at, you've asked any questions, you've done any research on them first. How would you like handle that as an objection, would you say?
Well, it depends what type of questions I've been asking him. Like, what's his situation like? How much does he have set aside for something like this? If he answered that he has enough money set aside for something based on, maybe the minimum requirement to get started, then you can give him a little bit, but don't give him too much. Keep some of it for the end in this case.
Okay. And then when you say some of it for the end, what does that mean? Like what are you...
That means we'll get into more details about the other packages that are available for
you.
So if you need a minimum investment, let's say they already know this sometimes. Some people know a little bit of how much it's going to cost, maybe 20,000 for us or 10,000, whatever the case may be, whatever you're selling. If they know the entry point, you can say, well, I'm going to get to the other, options later on, but yes, our minimum requirement is this for this result.
Got you.
So you answer it without having to give him too many details as well. So you're keeping him engaged and moving on.
Okay. And then when someone is to ask a question like that, and then they're like they just pause and it sort of startles them, like what would you do in that situation? How would you handle that situation? You're like, oh, there's 20,000. I go 20,000, and you can just tell that like there's like what do you do in that situation?
That is our main requirement. Is that something that if you want to, like, for example, the most important question to ask someone if you're selling whatever it is that you're selling, ask them the question like, why this?
Right. Yes, I've watched you do that. I've watched you do that.
And whatever it is, they're going to say, well, I like it because of this. I like it because the profit margins are higher. I like it because, well, this is why I'm interested. Even if they don't, they're going to give you all the answers as to why this is great for them. And then the best thing about this is that you're not convincing them. They're convincing themselves. And that's the power, because we can always tell someone what the benefits are. But if they're saying it to themselves, done deal.
Exactly. They're selling it to their family when they're talking to their family about why they're buying it from you. There's
a specific time to bring that in. So you need to know when to bring that question in. When's the right time to do it?
Of course.
How to say it, the tonality that is needed, the body language that is needed to get that result from them. Because if you say, why this? Or, well, tell me why this is so great for you. Yeah. Well, now they know that you're obviously,
of course,
you're hiding something. You're trying to get them to say something that they weren't supposed to say. These are all little things.
Yeah. I actually noticed that with one of your calls. You said it, and I've just got that in my mind. When you say it, it just reminds me, because you're just like, You're like, you just look very curious. Like, is this right in saying this? Like, I'm genuinely curious to like,
Yeah.
just for someone watching, maybe this is helpful. Like, you just look very curious and you're like, so Julien, like, why this? Why is this something you're considering doing?
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. That's how you do it. That's how Julien style.
It has to be genuine too.
Of course.
That's where, again, it comes down to body language, tonality. It all comes back to that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That is when you speak about like subconscious cues in general, all of that, anything that isn't verbal, it really is difficult to fake those things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I feel like studying those things, like what you've done, like even myself studying them, is 100% served my life. Like, and I can vouch for people that it's definitely served your life. I'm sure you will say that as well. And you learn all of that in policing school, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Most of it, I would say, you know, it comes down to your upbringing as well. Some people are more salespeople than other people, right? Some people are more outgoing and some people are more introverted, right?
True.
It can work both ways. There could be a great introverted salesperson and a bad outgoing salesperson. It all comes down to how they control. But it comes back to what we were saying, Max, at the beginning. It comes down to routine. It comes down to, are you eating healthy? Are you training well? Are you going to the gym regularly? Are you training your mind to be in the best position possible to succeed? So when you actually ask these questions, you can ask it in a genuine way.
Right.
Because there's no hesitation. You've kept those promises towards yourself every day.
Yes.
So now you're keeping them on the call as well.
Yes. You're like setting your standard.
Exactly. But it comes down to self-development. It comes down to what are you doing every day to get you to that point.
Right.
To be in the best position possible to succeed on this sales call.
Right. So what do you do on a daily basis, like to break that down? What do you do on a daily basis that gets you to improve every single day, even if it's 1% better every day?
I mean, I try to get up earlier every day, but with at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. You know, you need that. Sleep is number one.
Of course.
Waking up early, meditation, reading every day is super important because you always got to keep your mind, you know, learn something new every day. Because if you learn something new every day, your confidence is going to shoot up too because you're always learning something. Right. So you're that much better. You're 1% better than the day before. But then you're 1% better in your diet. Then you're 1% better in your training. And then as soon as you do all these things, you're like 10% better at the end of the week, whatever the case may be, in every aspect of your life. And what does that mean? You're 10% better in your financial life. Of course, now you can buy the car that you want. Now you can travel wherever you want. You can actually get to these levels where you thought are impossible to most people because they're not committed. They're not committed towards themselves. And it comes back to keeping promises to yourself to get to that point.
Of course. No, I like that. I like that. So I really like that in the keeping promises to yourself. And that's something that, like, as of this conversation has just re-sparked something in me, because like I've been that. And like, also to anyone watching, you will fall off. And you just have to get back on the horse. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it is going to happen. It's not a matter of like trying avoiding things going wrong or stuff going wrong. It's like, things will go wrong in life. Doesn't mean that it's going to end you. It just means, how do you deal with it and how do you get back up? Because the next time something like that could happen, you're prepared and it won't affect you as much next time, and you get back even quicker.
Yeah.
100%. So what type of books do you read that help you improve your financial game specifically?
I mean, right now I'm reading The Blue Ocean Strategy. I have it right here.
Who's that one by?
See it. What's that?
Who's that one by? I've heard that.
It's by this PhD teacher and this other person. Okay. Great authors. Right. Very great book.
Right.
I have a bunch of books. Like, I think like another one right here. I got The Gap and the Gain.
Okay.
I started reading. That one's pretty good. But I'm always looking to learn something new every day, regardless. Right. It could be in a different. So, I mean, I think reading one book a month would be good. Right. Definitely one book, because that's 12 books a year.
Of course.
That's 24 books in 2 years. That's huge.
Of course.
Audible books are good. You know, you can learn. I listen to a lot of Audible books that are on that application as well.
Right.
Biographies.
Also, I saw Spotify just released audiobooks as well, didn't they?
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I saw it recently. Super cool. So it's like, again, like if people are, I think you may have to pay for premium, but because I'm the type of person that I've read a few books, but I barely finish books. Audiobooks I can listen to over
Yeah.
and over and over again, and I can really learn, and that's my preference.
But some people are more audible, some
Of
people are
course,
more visual.
of
So
course,
do what works for you.
100%,
Whatever
100%,
gets you to learn something, I think that's great. It could be
100%.
audible, it could be audio or not. That's
I
great.
think it's also based on finding a book that you actually find fascinating. The last book that I've finished, again, I'm not the type that will finish a book in a month. For me, that is a lot. It's like, as long as I commit, if I commit to a certain amount of pages or a certain amount of time, that's my commitment, and that works for me. But the last book that I read was specifically based on hypnosis, and that's the last book that I finished. But before that, I've read books about people that I'm very fascinated by, but I haven't finished the book, because for me, I'd rather get the information by listening to it. So it's like, again, don't beat yourself up if you're that type of person. Just do what works for you. But it's just like something. Like, even if YouTube videos is good, that works as well. That gets you the information to improve your
Yeah.
sales game. Like you said, you haven't. Do you say you haven't had any formal like sales training?
No, I took sales training later on, actually.
Interesting.
So at first, I didn't take any sales training for maybe the first 7 years.
Wow.
Towards the end, I was starting to get of my last job where I was selling in person. I was learning more. I took some sales training there, but I've noticed something that sometimes sales training can confuse a lot of people more than anything.
Right.
You really got to pick the right training for you, and
True.
sometimes I've noticed with some people it just makes things worse. Not for me, because I can at this point in time I have enough experience to know, but when somebody's first starting in the sales game, I would say learn by yourself. Learn
Right.
the fundamentals of being a successful person, like being persistent, communication.
Right.
um, all these basic things are more important than the sales training itself.
Mm-hmm,
If
mm-hmm,
you master those things, master your life, master your environment first, learn from your sales environment, whatever that may be.
mm-hmm.
Learn for yourself first, and then if you need more sales training, then you can go get it.
Right, because that's like I just pictured in my mind when you said that. I imagine like a very introverted person going to like a Grant Cardone sales training, which is like literally grab them and get that sale and don't let go until you've got that sale. Like, that's just going to be difficult for someone to learn. You've got to unlearn who you are to learn something else, which then you're not being as genuine on the call. Is that sort of what you're trying to say?
Yeah, but I think some sales training is great too, but it
Right,
has to be the right sales training. That's
right,
what I'm saying. Because if you take the wrong sales training, it will mess you up a lot, 10 times more than if you took nothing.
right. So if you just
So
like
you
read a book, yeah, of course.
read a book or took the right sales training, I would say.
Interesting. Okay, I like that. I like that. So I'm also very curious to what like, this is just for me, just a genuine curious question. Like, what are some funny objections that you've overcome, and like that you've just come up with, and you're just like, what the hell, like what? And then you just overcome, but you've actually overcome them as well, or not overcome them. I'm just generally curious. Just came to my mind.
I mean, I don't know, man. There's so many of them. It's just like every day is different, like
Yeah.
depending on who I spoke with, when I was, I mean, like, for example, if I do this, my family's not going to talk to me anymore because they don't believe in what I'm buying. I mean, aren't you going to do this for yourself? This is for you. Who's gonna pay the bills at the end of the day? You.
Yeah.
They're not going
Yeah.
to pay your bills. So if you want
Yeah.
to make this much money, let's say, whatever you're selling, and you're selling a passive income opportunity, then say, hey, they're not going to pay your bills. You are. So
Yeah.
do it for you. But it's
Yeah.
like convincing people, like, oh, my grandma and my mom doesn't like do. Like,
Come on, man.
do it for you.
Yeah.
Don't do it for anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. There's a bunch, but
I
I
can
love
imagine.
objections. That's one of
Yeah.
my specialties is overcoming objections, because I
What?
feel like that's where a lot of salespeople mess up.
Yes.
Is they freeze up.
Mm-hmm.
People notice it, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
You're done
Of
right
course.
there
Of
because
course.
you did not react at the right time.
Yeah.
And that happens in a split second. So number one, people freeze up a lot. They don't know what to say. And then that's the most, and a lot of these sales training gurus out there are always like making sure the script is so perfect that you don't get any objections.
Of
Fine,
course.
that can work. But as soon as there's one, they don't know what to do
Of
because they
course.
don't know how to overcome objections.
Of course.
And I think that's the most important part in being a great salesperson, is being able to overcome
Yeah.
objections.
So how do you, like, you say I suppose by now you probably actually enjoy the objection, because you're like, I was waiting
Oh
for
yeah,
it.
that's where it starts. I'm like, yes,
Let's
let's
go.
get to it.
Now we're
Feel the
having a
script.
sales call.
Let's is where the sale's going to happen. This is where the deposit is in. This is where the wire is going to come through. Let's go. Because if you don't have any objections, they're not going to buy because they're not interested. Somebody that's bringing up an objection is already interested.
Of course.
Now,
Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
Your only job at that point is to overcome it.
Okay.
Whatever it may be.
Okay, so how can you how do you overcome objections? Like, let's say, what would you say is a common objection? Like, I had this conversation with Steve, and like his was, what was his one? Can I speak to your previous clients before we get started? Like, I'm ready to go, but can I speak to your previous clients before we get started? Like, what's like a common objection that you come across that you have you've handled like hundreds of times?
Well, I've had that one.
Mm-hmm. Is there a different one though?
Yeah, I need to speak to my wife.
Okay.
I mean, Max, it's fine. You can speak to your wife. That's not a problem. It's up to you. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you told me you wanted to do this for your family. Mm-hmm. Your wife is a stay-at-home mom, right? That's great. I'm happy that you guys are in that situation. But she told you she wants you to make more money. Well, isn't this going to get you there? This is something that you really want to do this year. You've been waiting to do this for the last 2 or 3 years. You're a slave of the office. That's what you told me. Right? So do you think your wife would be against you making more money to get you to where you and your wife want to be in the first place?
It's the genuine curiosity. I see it in your face. You're good, man. You're good.
Well, so yeah, that's one of them. I mean, like, at this point, Max, it's up to you. This is not going to make any difference in my life, but I know this is going to get you to where you want to be, right?
Of course.
So the wife objection is one. I don't know, any type of objection, doesn't matter. It could be, yeah, I don't know. If you want to shoot me another objection, we can role play.
Let's go with it. Let's go with one that, like, then, like, let's say like you're selling to a business or something like that, and they're not necessarily, no, because I suppose you would get the decision maker on. Let's say I need to speak to my business partners. What would you say in that situation?
Right. Well, I mean, number one, depending on the situation, if this is in the discovery when you're first learning about the person, and I would always ask them, hey, are you the main decision maker, or is there somebody else? Like, you can say decision maker, or you can say, is this your thing, or is your wife going to be whatever? Right. Oh yeah, I have a business partner. Well, at least you know in the discovery, like, hey, do you want to reschedule? Do you want to have them come on so we can speak and have both of you on?
Right.
Let's just say you said, no, I can still make the decision. Okay, cool.
Okay.
So we go through everything. We're at the end, and then you bring up that objection.
Yeah, I've still got to speak to Max, my business partner.
Okay. so Max, that's fine. But I know I remember you told me, like, this was your thing. This was your decision to make, right? Wasn't that something I know you told me that at the beginning. So, what's your hesitation? What are you hesitating on?
I'm just like, I just got to make sure that it's right for us.
Okay. And when you mean right, what do you mean by that? What's your hesitation with everything that I showed you?
That you're the right company, and like that there's not someone better out there that could do better for us, and that we're going with the right people.
Okay. Well, like I said, we've been in the business for the last 4 years. You wanted to make this much, or this is what you wanted to get in as an end result. Well, we know we can deliver. We even guarantee your investment. I mean, we've never had to use our guarantee before. The reason why we have it there is because we know we'll never have to use it. I mean, worst case, Max, let's just say worst case, you invest in this and you don't make the money you were supposed to make. Well, we'll pay you the difference at the end of X amount of time. So the worst case, you're right back where you are in 24 months. True. But if you don't make that first step for yourself, like, who's going to make it for you? Now, I understand your business partner wants to come in on this. I'm sure he'd be aligned with everything we showed, because you even said it yourself. Like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So you have to make that first step for yourself, right? And at the end of the day, it's for you. It's not for me. You're doing this for yourself.
Mm.
And you told me this is important because you want to hit that milestone of this much that you want to make by X amount of time.
Mm. Very true. Very true. I suppose we need to, and I suppose at that point, like there, because it's difficult for me to come up with those, like my actual objections on the spot. But like, I suppose what you're doing is, like, what are you doing in that situation? Like to get to the real objection, like behind, like, because the reality is, they don't really need to talk to someone. Do you know what I mean? Like
Correct.
you said, the person that's, if they're on the call and they've been qualified, the right people are on the call, whether that's husband and wife that are doing something together, or whether that's 2 business partners or 3 business partners that are doing something together. Would you say that it's important before you even pitch anything? Like, how do you make sure that the right person, the decision maker, is on the call, let's say?
Well, I always ask them in the beginning, like, is this your thing, or is there somebody else involved? Are you the main decision maker, or is there somebody else? And you got to ask the question at the beginning. But sometimes you'll know. Obviously, this is something else that I teach my guys, is knowing when to ask the question and when not to ask it. Reason why? Because you kind of know based on what they're saying to you at the beginning of the call. You have to be able to identify, I have enough information, I don't even need to ask them this question.
It's like just being aware.
That's where it comes down to people just following the script and not really understanding in the present moment what's going on, right? And it comes back down to being present in the call. Are you present? Are you somewhere else? Are you thinking about the commission? Do you have that commission breath, right? Are you thinking about what happened to your girlfriend last night? Who gives a fuck what happened last night? You're here now. You're here to make money. You're here to close this freaking deal, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the mindset you have to have. You can't be anywhere else.
Right.
Even if there's a freaking earthquake outside, I don't give a shit. I'm staying here. I'm focused right here. I don't care what's going
on. How do you get to that place where, regardless of what's going on, because it's like I'm sure you agree with this, like it doesn't really, it's not you're not diminishing someone's problems, issues, struggles, but it's like, but here, you're right here right now. You've got to solve this problem right now. You can go back to this problem and that problem here, but currently you're here. How do you like switch from that? Because I feel like it's a very masculine like thought process. Just like I'm on here. Here's where I am. Here's my tunnel vision. How do you have that tunnel vision to make sure that you're solving this before you even think about your other things?
Yeah, it's a great question, Max. I would say, I don't know. For me, it's just like there's a switch that goes off in my brain. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm here.
Right.
I don't care what's going on.
Right.
Outside. I don't care if there's World War III that's about to hit my street. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Were you always like that?
I mean, I think you're a product of your environment. I think what made me the way I am today is where I used to work. Okay. Where I used to work at Blancino, it was like kill or be killed. Like basically like you got to focus. Remember, we were straight commission and everybody was commission hungry, right?
Right.
So as soon as you talk, like I'll give you an example. You would be talking to this client on the floor that wants to buy this television, let's say, or appliance. And then you go get the information for him. You're about to make the sale. And then you have one of your guys, your sales guys that you work with, that's talking to the client. You're like, hey, that's my client. And they're like, no, it's mine now. That's the environment. So the environment is they can take your client anytime and you can take their client anytime. Wow. There were basically hardly any rules. The rules were never really, they weren't really respected. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
So you had to be such in the present moment. Like it was like a fight or flight situation all the time.
Okay.
So it's like, if you are in a fight or flight situation, are you able to handle pressure?
And
if you're able to handle pressure, regardless of what happens on the call, doesn't matter to me because I'm here. I can handle whatever. That's why my objection handling is so great too. Because I know how to handle pressure regardless of where it is. I don't care.
Were you always like that? Were you always able to handle pressure growing up as a kid, like that type of stuff? Or did you learn that?
I mean, like I said, I kind of learned it also, but I think you kind of have it. Like it can be developed for sure. Like I help my guys all the time to handle pressure on calls, to be able, like I'm able to pinpoint right there where they're making the mistake.
Right.
Like, hey guys, no, stop right there. See there? You're not handling the pressure. You're not present.
Got you.
Tonalities. You cut that person off. Now she doesn't feel heard. Now it's over. Now you're getting objections.
Right.
So there's all these things that happen in the call that are basically making you mess up the call, mess up the
Of
sales
course.
process.
Of course. Of
So,
course.
but coming back to what you're saying is handling pressure is huge because
Mm-hmm.
sales is pressure.
Of course.
And a lot of people don't want to admit it, but you know, if you're in sales, you have to handle pressure. If you can't handle pressure, this is not for you. But there's a way to handle more pressure as time goes on, for sure.
Okay, cool. So before we'll start to wrap this up soon, but before we really get to that, I'm just curious. I'm really curious on that pressure. Like, how do you teach your guys how to develop more pressure? Because I know that me specifically, the way that I developed how to handle more pressure was just being in such difficult situations that
Mm-hmm.
I just had to handle it. I didn't actually have a choice. It was like, oh, like I put myself in these uncomfortable places. Like even doing something like an ice bath, it's like physically painful and
Yeah.
physically difficult, which makes it mentally difficult, which I'm like, well, if I can do that, then I can do something else. Like when I don't want to do it, I do it. And I definitely have built that. Like, would you say there's any other way that you teach your guys how to just handle so much pressure?
Yeah, it comes down to purpose over pleasure, right?
Right.
We always want that instant gratification. I want pleasure right now. I don't want to wait for the result. I want it now.
Of
No,
course.
it takes discipline. It comes down to the main things. It comes back to the foundation. We need
Exactly
to
what we
build that
spoke about.
foundation first, and then we can grow from there. But
Mm-hmm.
if we're talking specifically in a sales environment, like in a sales call, for example, breaking that down. Yeah, you need to be good. You need to be in control of your emotions, number one.
Right.
That comes down to keeping the promises towards yourself. Comes down to having how's your routine? What are you doing day in and day out? And are you aware of what's going on? Awareness.
Mm.
Because a lot of people don't even know that they can't handle the pressure. They don't know what they're doing. They think they're doing well when they're doing bad, like
Mm-hmm.
really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they think they're better than they actually are.
Yeah, of course.
So how do you teach someone that thinks that they're already great?
Of course.
You don't.
So
It
would you
comes
say
down to having
there's got to be the humility in it? Because, for example, I'll give you an example.
yeah.
I say me and my girlfriend, we I don't know whether this is self-sabotage or not, but we definitely put ourselves in very difficult situations very regularly. And but also we're both like, in fairness, like I'm saying this from a place I'm gonna like light a fire up my own ass here. Like even in those very stressful situations, we don't get that stressed. And like I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but I would say that it's definitely building the ability to be under a lot of pressure and not to worry. Like even like just as an example, like if I'm late for something, I'm like, well, if I'm late, I'll sort out. If I'm like, let's say for example, you miss a train or you miss a flight. Okay, we just sort out the problem when it comes. Obviously, we can prevent ourselves from having that problem.
Oh yeah. I used to do that a lot too.
Okay.
100%. Where you would put yourself in a stressful situation to feel alive, or you would actually on purpose make things stressful and wait till the last minute to do something to actually feel like, oh, we got to do something at the last minute.
No, I'm laughing. My girlfriend's sitting here. She's just going, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Max, I did that a lot, like until like for a long time. I did that before,
So
and I've come to
just
the
to
realization.
go ahead.
Yeah,
No, go
I've
ahead.
come to the realization it's not worth self-sabotaging at that. Like it's self-sabotage in a sense because you want stressful situations because you feel like you're doing something productive when you're stressed. When
Mm-hmm.
that could have been rectified before, right? And before it became a big problem, it was a small problem. That's where you could have
Yes.
killed it right there.
Right.
And that's the thing, is not to let things get too big and then have to
Right.
spend all this energy,
Yeah.
because we've been in stressful situations in the past where we think that the only way to feel normal is to feel stressed.
Of course.
If that
Of
makes sense.
course.
So that's not a healthy way to do it. And I used to do that before, and I don't do that anymore, because to handle stress, like we can all handle stress, but if you could prevent things from happening in the first place,
Why not?
you'll be much more productive and that much better in your life in general.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Would you also agree, this could just be me justifying right now, but would you also agree that you being in those situations where you had caused that stress actually made you realize it? Because it's like I'm not a big believer in like saying to someone, the only way that you're going to change is by me telling you. It's like, no, you actually have to go and experience it. You have to be in that stressful state to realize I can't keep doing this. And like, maybe it will take a conversation like this for someone to go, oh, actually that makes total sense. Maybe I should just like, when I see myself doing that, I should stop. But like, do you think that it actually had a positive impact over a short period of time? I wouldn't say like prolonged period of time. I'd say short period of time. Do you think that it helped you in some sort of way?
Yeah, I think it does, because you can handle stressful situations better because you've been through those situations in the past. So whatever happens after this is easier, because you've been in stressful situations before that. Now this is a piece of cake.
Right. That makes sense.
But if you bring that into the less stressful situations and make them more stressful than they should be, then we're doing the same thing again.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah.
That's where you break the cycle.
Okay.
And it comes down to being more present, comes down to being like, what are you doing to prevent that in the first? But you have to be aware. It comes down to awareness.
Of course.
That's
and then that comes down to actually being conscious, and even just setting calendars and time slots on your calendar, for example. Maybe that's a way that people can do it. For me personally, if something's important, it's in my calendar. It's got an alarm. Yeah. Sometimes it has 2 alarms, but it's got and that still doesn't stop me at times, because still sometimes I will overstep my own mark and self-sabotage, let's say. But I definitely would agree with you that like it's prioritizing the things, I suppose. That's what it comes down to, and prioritizing the things that are going to serve you. And if it can be done today, get it done today rather than in 2 weeks' time.
Correct. But don't freak out if it doesn't happen.
Of course. Yes.
But just be like, okay, go with the flow, but make it as much structure with the flow possible, if that makes sense. Structure with flow. You got to have both.
Of course.
So that's for sure. That's
definitely
super important.
So putting structure, getting in the flow, just getting on with it, just putting one foot in front of the other, and creating an environment. Like, these are all the things I've just like got from this podcast. Creating the environment, like setting yourself up for success, learning every day, like really studying rather than just studying sales calls, like study humans, subconscious behaviors, and being able to be adaptable and like shift what's going on. And so someone throws in an objection middle of the script, don't just say, so do you want to see the presentation? Like actually like be ready. Like play some tennis here, do you know what I mean? No, cool stuff, man. Cool stuff. So before we end, I just really want to just ask you one more question and just see what is like genuine advice to someone getting in the sales game. Like genuine advice that you wish you heard, just simple, genuine advice that would help someone.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I would say first, you need the desire to succeed. It comes down to desire. You know, like Napoleon Hill, his second chapter out of the book is desire, burning 100%. Desire.
Yeah.
Without burning desire, you're never going to start anything. You're never going to finish anything.
Completely agree.
Because if you have that burning desire day in and day out, it doesn't matter. You're going to do the things that need to be done. So I think it comes down to that, because there's so many people that have great talent that don't do anything with that talent because they don't have a burning desire. Yes. So
we're getting a like encore from my girlfriend. She agrees. So that I actually want to just put on top of that is like a personal story for myself. The burning desire to get me even in the conversation with Jovan about and Sasha about doing media for PhoneSales to help you guys really take off and to put something in place came from me and my girlfriend sitting on our floor being like, we can't pay rent this month. What are we going to do? First, we had to lose our ego. I had to ask to borrow money, but then that's where the business actually was born out of, to be able to step forward and go, we need to do something. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if we have to work 10, 12, 15-hour days to start with, because that's not sustainable long term. But like, we'll do whatever it takes to get this running. And genuinely, in 6 months' time, our life has dramatically changed. Now, that doesn't mean that we haven't had success in the past, because we both have. But it was that burning desire. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes from sheer pain, like genuinely a lot of the time. But I suppose it doesn't have to. And like you said, it's like visualizing that outcome for your future and
Yeah.
what you want to create. But I love that. That is gold. That is gold.
But actually, if I can add on to what you just said here, the second thing after that is to not be complacent. Because I
Yes.
see so many salespeople that I teach on how to be better at their game is I want to hit 10K. They hit the 10K,
And
then
they
they,
stop.
they, they, they slack off. They go
Yeah.
back to their poverty mindset, like, oh, I've done enough, going back down to the comfort zone, right? Because when you're pushing yourself, you're outside of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But pushing yourself should be your comfort zone every day. Their
mm-hmm.
comfort zone is being outside of your comfort zone.
Yes. Yes.
That's what
I
it has
like
to
it.
be. Because once you start hitting those numbers that you set for yourself, if you don't step up and say, I need this much now, then you're going to slowly go down, because you'll
Yeah.
never, because if you're staying the same, you're dying.
Of
You're
course.
not growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. That's basically it.
Of course.
So after that burning desire is to keep that burning desire going.
Yeah. And is that as simple as like setting a goal? And I suppose once you get to a certain figure, like I've not hit 6-figure months yet. That's on its way, definitely. But would you say that it's once you've got that consistently, it's then actually sometimes setting a goal completely external of that? Like, okay, now we're doing this kind of money. It's like, right now I want to, my goal is to help 3 closers hit this type of money each month, which then directly impacts your finances. And I suppose that's probably why you became a partner, right?
Yeah, it's because I wanted to help other people. Because I've kept so many of these secrets to myself, right? Of helping. Like, because where I used to work, remember, I couldn't share what I was doing because it was so competitive. You didn't want to give an edge to a guy, right? Because, like, for example,
take your client.
Well, it's just because, there's no respect, right? And now I can actually be like, I want to help other people, and I'm super happy to help other people.
I like that.
This is what fulfills me, and my purpose is helping other people, because I can make myself happy, but what makes me truly happy is helping other people, not just myself.
Let's go.
But the other important thing too, if I might add, is, so many people, once they hit certain numbers that they wanted to do, they don't reward themselves. So rewards at every step that you're doing has to happen.
Interesting.
Because some people say, save your money. Yeah, it's good to save money and invest it. Do that. I do the same thing, 100%. But keep yourself a little reward in what you're making.
Of course.
So buy yourself a nice watch if you hit this goal, or get your upgrade where you're living, whatever the case may be.
Definitely.
But always give yourself a little bit of a reward.
I like that. I like that. That's what I've been doing. Actually, just got a new phone today. Like, hadn't had a new phone for like 4 years. Was like, right, reward myself. For me, it's also like this also helps make more money because it's like high quality camera, stuff like that. Like it's beneficial. That's the way I see it. But I like the idea of like upgrade, constantly get better, and like, don't like, yes, it's always good to have like backup money. You can put it into investment, stuff like that, I suppose. But like you said, it's reward yourself, like aim to do better, rather than saying, oh, I can't afford that. Say, well, how can I afford that? You know what I mean? And you get there, make it
what
happen.
do you need to do to get there?
Exactly.
Afford what you want. Exactly. Whatever it may be. If it's a Lamborghini Urus that you want for your girlfriend and yourself, like, how are you going to get there? If you want that place right above, like on the beachfront place, wherever you want to buy your house, how do you get outside of the village and go on the beachfront? Like, those are the goals. And how, like, if you set those goals now, you'll get there a lot faster than if you never set them in the first place.
And also that just comes down to just asking yourself better questions. I'm assuming you're a very internal person. Maybe you journal. Maybe when you meditate, you ask yourself those questions like, what did I do today that made that sale not go through? Because it's not like you probably don't close 100%. Like, I'm sure there's people that maybe there's people that do. I don't know, but I'm sure you don't close 100%.
No, for sure. But I can close as close as I can to,
of course,
whatever's possible. Let's just put it that way.
Of course,
possible. But it comes down to asking better questions. If you can ask yourself better questions, you'll be able to ask better questions to the people that you're talking to.
Definitely. And you get better answers from yourself.
Correct.